Well, thank you so much for having me. It is such a pleasure to be here with you guys. I am so appreciative to be sitting next to this lovely woman, Toni Trucks, and with CBS. And I have to say, I'm so happy to be with CBS, and because CBS has given me many opportunities to grow as an artist and to use my voice. And here I am with you guys. So. I'll share a little bit about my experience kind of breaking into the industry. Well, I went to an art school, which was mentioned, Boston Arts Academy, and I studied vocal music. I always was very interested in acting, and I wanted to be, I would watch the Disney Channel, I would watch, different things, and I'd be like, I can do that. Really, I can do that. But I really never saw myself represented. And so that to me I didn't have the confidence to say, okay, yeah, one day I can. And then when I went to the art school, for some reason they didn't really push us to really get careers in the arts. It was mostly like, it was very important on, the emphasis was important on going to college and doing something practical. And I feel like the school has changed since then, but so I studied political science and communication because I was always really interested in social justice. I didn't think that these two would, eventually happen for me. I always just thought that I could only be one thing, which maybe I didn't because I tried so many different majors in college. But I never really thought I was very good at anything. I always kind of knew that I could sort of try, but I never thought I was particularly good. Until I just gave myself the chance. I wasn't, having a good time doing anything. I wasn't happy working at the law office that I was working at. I wasn't happy doing the paralegal program I was doing because nothing right then was speaking to me. And I also had not yet been completely honest to myself about what I really wanted to accomplish in the world. So I just started taking classes. I still had like 3 jobs. I was like passing out hot tamales, the hot candy. I was passing that out at, the Boston Common. Then I'd go work at some bar. Then, I'd work at the law office in the morning. It was just like a lot of work. But I also gave myself the chance to take acting classes. And I said, you know what, let me see if this works out. And, I did a few classes, and then I studied in, different, like, beginning acting and, like, improvisation 1.
And these are like just around Boston. They're not like in conjunction with your college?
No. Yeah, there's literally 2 casting houses. There's Boston Casting, and then there's CP Casting, and then there's the modeling casting thing. I went there. They said no. So I moved to New York because I just thought that it was a bigger space. But I always just was really realistic. I always thought, I just want to see what happens. I feel like I just gave my chance to, well, maybe I will start taking acting classes, and maybe I will start auditioning. Maybe nothing happens, but maybe I'll get interested in something else. So I was always open for that, for like different opportunities to come to me, and I think it served me very well because I've been willing to try different things, just like which I did, and then Orange Is the New Black happened, and didn't think that was going anywhere. I thought it was a web series. Turns out web series are really cool.
Was that your first audition for like a big television production?
Yes, but I didn't really know. Like, Netflix, I was like, I still have like 2 Netflix discs that I haven't returned, like, in 6 years. So I didn't know what was going on with that. So no, I didn't think. I was like, Mom, it's not even on TV. She's like, well, just do it. Just see what happens. And, I did for 5 years, and it was great. But I always wanted to tell different stories, and especially where I saw myself as a hero, as a professional, as someone who cared about something. Not that Orange, where she cared about eyeliner, which is great. You can care about stuff like that, but I really did want to say something with the roles that I portrayed, and I think that started happening a little, or things became clearer for me when I decided to share my personal story with my book. And that was a day, that was, a time where I realized, oh my goodness, I am smart. Oh my God, I am malleable. Oh,
Was
wait.
there like an inciting event that you were like, I'm going to write this book? Or was it just sort of a slow burn?
No, I thought I was going to write a book at 80. No, I just wrote an op-ed for the LA Times around this, around the 2016 election, hoping that it would, influence. President Obama at the time was trying to pass a law or to extend DACA and to and then create DAPA, which was for parents of citizen children. And so I thought that if I shared my story, that it could help people maybe see a real face that has gone through something so traumatic and hopefully learn a little bit about what family separation did to me and my family, which was very negative. However, I also wanted to show something positive from my community and how I grew up and what my parents did instill in me, because I did have passion and I did have a desire to work and to do something good. And so I wanted to be seen that way, and I wanted to make my parents proud. So that's why I shared. And I also didn't want to see a lot of the kids, when I was a little girl, I didn't have a book to tell me, to say, hey, this is similar to your experience. And honestly, since I've shared my story, it's really helped open up my eyes. I've learned so much. I'm taking risks that I've never taken before. And I really think that my art is getting better, that my craft is getting better now that I'm actually being honest. So yeah. Thank you.
I could just ask you questions all day.
I want to ask you questions all day.
I feel like my story is very different than yours, but we do have some similarities. I'm at chapter 10 of Diane's book, so get into it. But I was.
She reads.
I read things. University of Michigan. Thank you. I have a different story, but we have so many similarities, which was so lovely to experience. Diane and I both went to performing arts high school. I think our experiences were a little bit different, but it is when you said in your book, like, it's so much like fame. That's what my experience was like as well. I went to our performing arts school in the woods of northern Michigan called Interlochen, and it was very much like fame, except for in the woods. But, we also have these sort of uncle brothers. Diane has one that's like 10 years older than you, right? And I've got one that's 13 years older.
I didn't know it was called Uncle Brothers. Now
I called it Uncle
makes
Brother.
it creepy.
Yeah, it is sort of. It's like, you're related. It's like, I love you, but you're just like, you're like an uncle brother. It's like, you're just like a little bit older.
Yeah, I got
right?
it. Yeah.
Is this creepy?
Yeah.
It's weird. Older brothers, period. And both were aunts at young ages. And so I loved learning all of that about you, and our similarities. And then also just navigating the entertainment industry as a woman of color is its own particular beast and gift. And so after, I grew up in a tiny, tiny, tiny town in Michigan. And for some reason, this little community that had about 7,000 people valued the arts. I don't know why. I'm very grateful. So we had a theater there. There was an old Art Deco movie theater and also a Victorian playhouse. And so I grew up taking dance classes and going to theater classes and doing all these things. And, another thing that I really responded, I'm sorry to take it back to Diane, but I'm a little obsessed with her right now.
I'm not mad at it.
You grew up with parents that really supported you. Again and again, whenever I read in your book that you would come with ideas, like, I want to do this, I want to do that, they said, oh, Diane, that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, let's have a practical discussion about this. And my community did that. So many of the adults around me, my parents included, were constantly telling me, yes. And so from such a little age, it never occurred to me that big things weren't an option. And so when I said I wanted to be an actor, they were like, great, or like, why don't you choreograph the school play? Really? Okay, great. So I just kept doing these things. And that was so impactful for a little person to have the adults around them say yes and do it, and that they could. And I think about that all the time. And from there, I went on to Interlochen, and I begged my parents to mortgage the house to go to this performing arts high school for my senior year, and which was super scary because all of a sudden I wasn't the big fish anymore. And then I went to University of Michigan's musical theater program, and all I wanted to do was Broadway. It's all I could think about day and night was doing Broadway. And I would say one of our differences is that my college and my high school really, there was such this crystal clear path of what to do next. They always were like, you're going to go to this school, then we're going to have a showcase for you. And when you go to that showcase, you're going to get an agent. And all of those things just ended up happening. And just because the adults around us were really caring for those young artists and nurturing them. And when I was in New York, I was just doing musical theater and like hoofing around all the regional theater circuit from New York to upstate and Baltimore, Kansas, wherever anyone would hire me. And I don't know if you can call it that because I feel like I'm still kind of like chiseling away at Hollywood, but if you want to call it breaking in. My very first television audition, I somehow booked. I don't know. It took a very long time. It was a slow, complicated process, and I was working in Baltimore. And if anyone knows theater at all, your Mondays are dark, so you work 5-show weekends. You do Friday, 2 shows on Saturdays, 2 shows on Sundays, then you're off on Mondays. And every Monday, for years, I would get on a train and go back to New York from wherever I was doing a small play, and I would audition. And that's when I did my first television audition. It was just randomly on one of those Mondays. And that process carried out. And luckily, the casting directors that were involved were lovely enough to make sure that all of my subsequent auditions fell on Mondays, even up until my final test when they flew me to Los Angeles was on a Monday. And I had to beg for it, but we got it. And I thought it was like the Cinderella story, coming to Los Angeles and living in a hotel and driving around on a golf court. I'm like, I can't get any better. There's golf carts, And then that show was canceled. Welcome to Hollywood.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yep. It was canceled right away. And so everyone was like, oh my God, you made it. And then I was just starting over. And during that time, I actually auditioned for, they were doing a revival of The Pajama Game with Harry Connick Jr., and I was so excited, and I got an equivalent of like a sort of glorified chorus part, and my representation at the time was like, you can't be a lead on a Showtime series and also be in the chorus, you can't. And I was like, but it's Broadway, it's all I've ever wanted. And we didn't do it, and my show didn't come back. And
was it something that, like, obviously we don't I hate living in regret, and there's no way to know where that would have led you, but do you ever feel like you should have just gone with your gut, or that if you wanted to do it, you should have said yes, or were you appreciative that your representation led you that way?
I think in hindsight, it's totally futile to have any sort of regret.
Yeah.
Completely. Because I think that led me down a different path. Because I didn't do that, I ended up doing this tiny independent movie for $200, and then that got picked for Sundance, and so it was always these twists and turns, and so I try to lean into those failures, as painful as they are.
Well, they're not failures.
Yeah, they lead to your successes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Just those twists in the road, or whatever that it is. But I often will think back to the support of the people in that community, and because of that, I've tried to make a concerted effort to bring whatever I'm doing back to that community. And our PR department from CBS has been so supportive and lovely, because I'm having a premiere in my tiny town for SEAL Team. Can you help me out? And they do. And so the whole town comes out to the local movie theater, and we watch whatever. If it's NCIS, they come out to the movie theater and they watch it live. And they come, and it's just too cute. So we had a SEAL Team premiere, and and we're probably going to do it again for season 2. And they put it up on the marquee, and we watch it all live. And there's a Q&A, and the local pubs have like a SEAL team inspired menu. And it's really silly, but it's really fun, just because I think that when you're a little person, especially a little person of color, having big things seem close and touchable is so impactful. So everything that I do, I just want it to be like, it's real. It's not like far away. It's not just on your screen somewhere. It's actually happening, and you can touch it and you can get to it. So that's sort of like been...
That's so important. I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to do now, is just to always, I know it sounds like, I don't know, like I always think about my community, but I think you have to, because I know, I mean, obviously you appreciated it. Even going to my art school, like having my teachers support me when I didn't have my parents around was so crucial to my development. And, letting me know that there were possibilities out there for me. I didn't see the possibility of me being an actor. Like, I mean, it's certainly not a working one. But it did happen. And so it's important for us to take that message to where we came from.
Yeah.
So that people can see themselves in us.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you, I'm dying to ask you this question, is that, we're so social media centric right now. I mean, our noses are in our phones constantly. Even on the walk over here, we're like, we gotta post this really quick, gotta post this. And, but I think one of the things that I've admired just observing you, and we're meeting for the first time today, is using your social platform to speak on not only what you're doing in the entertainment industry, but what you're doing, what is important to you in the world. And I feel that draw too, but I'm curious as to what your perspective is on that, if it's important, if it's a must.
I think social media is really important. It's the way a lot of people are communicating. It's the way young people are communicating. And I always want to be a positive light, or just a positive reference for younger people, because there's a lot of garbage on there too. Where I'm just like, where are all these people? Why aren't they reading books? Not that I'm a great big reader, but I want to see more of people just donating their time and using their time and their talent and their skill for good. And so I want to be that. I want to show people that I care about things, that I'm not, that.
Have you ever felt that, word is, threatened or precious about your celebrity versus your platform?
I guess sometimes it's hard, once you share something so personal, it's hard to sort of separate the two, and that's what sort of I'm trying to do now. Like, yes, my parents and I were separated when I was a kid, but that's not all of what I am. And I always try to tell people, I'm like, if you interview me, please don't start with, her parents were deported at 14. Can you call me an actress first? Like, so I can get work? But so, and it's tough, like, especially when if I am doing something that's perceived as, like if you take a selfie, so that's like selfish, right? So if you're over here posting stuff about what you care about and what matters and trying to educate folks, or maybe trying to start discussions on important issues, and then you post something on like, don't miss my show, and like, here I am, and do a boomerang, and then people will judge you on that. And it's like, that's the kind of culture sort of we're living on, where people are just ready to contradict you, or trying to say that you're contradicting yourself. So I think that you just always have to stay clear about what you're doing. It's like, I'm doing this for myself. I'm using my platform the way I want to use it. But yeah, I'm trying to just be more comfortable with the fact that I did share my story in this way, and just own it.
Well, I think that, I completely agree with you. I think that like all things are true. Like, you can take a selfie and you can also care about the world. Like, they're not mutually exclusive. And I know that that's been hard. I'm in a military drama, and that attracts a wide range of intense audience members on the political spectrum. that I'm privy to. And so, but I'm a person that has decided to participate in social media. And it's my personal feeling, and I don't think that everyone has to have this, but I feel that if I'm a person that is deciding to post every day, I have a obligation and responsibility to acknowledge when the world is on fire. And I always joke that I'm like, any black person over, 65 is like, I marched with Dr. King. And I'm like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Like, just say you weren't there. No, not all of you were there. I love you, but you weren't all there. Like I was there, Selma. No, you weren't. And
You saw Selma.
you saw it. It's okay.
Saw the movie.
It's all right. But like, I don't want all these wonderful things are happening, right, in our world. All these, like, we're having this really delicious shift in the axis. The pendulum is swinging in this great way, and I don't want to look back on these landmark moments and like be like, I posted about my lipstick that day. And so I try to stop when I can. And, I recently did a post just saying, like, hey, all you rabble-rousers and disruptors, walk out of school today. I'm with you. Live your life. And I got a lot of hate mail, a lot of hate posts, like, how dare you put on that uniform every week? How dare you? And I was like, you know what? Like, this is my truth. And I think that all things are true. I don't think that me putting on a uniform and representing that military women of color undercuts my feeling about those kids walking out of school today. And I want to try when I can to be fearless about saying that. And in a way, now that I know that those you always have trolls, right? People are always trolling. So I feel like I have to, for my own peace of mind, that I can sleep at night, be like, hey, Black Lives Matter. Hey, I love the ACLU. Gay people are great. Like, just to sort of police the audience in a way where I can be sure that I am living my truth if I'm going to have a public platform.
Well, we have that responsibility. And a lot of, I think in the past, some of us have, stayed out of, having a political opinion. But that's no more, right? You cannot live in these times and not say something about what's going on. And especially like in the positions that we are, where people are watching us, we want to influence them to rise up, to use their voices, to not look at injustice and say, I can't do anything about it. So as long as we're sitting in these seats, I think that we have a responsibility. A lot of people will say, no, you're not a professional. You're not, qualified to do this. And I'm like, well, I think I am, because I'm a human being and I'm living this.
Not only that, I think that as artists, we're, all of the people in this room are coming from a creative trajectory. And I think that as an actor, we are called to sit in other seats, put on other shoes, and if we're doing our job correctly, you really have to put on someone else's, perspective to be able to portray them accurately. And if that's not a recipe for empathy, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So when people are always confused about why actors are sticking their nose where it doesn't belong, I'm always like, that is how we're wired. We're wired to try to see it from other people's seats, and that's why you end up with so many actors that feel and have to, are called to speak on other people's behalves.
How do you feel as a woman working on your show right now, on like a military show where you're playing a strong character? How is it? Right now, I've played a prisoner. I've played someone who really cares about somebody else's losing their virginity. and now I'm playing a food truck owner. And so that's, right now, Sophia is like the most, I guess, powerful character that I've ever played. But she's certainly not.
Business owner.
She's a business owner, she's casual. But she has all these opinions, and she's never afraid to use her voice, and that's sort of where I am right now, and it's really special. But I've never played like an officer before, or how is that? And especially how many women are in the show?
There's 2 women on the show.
Okay.
So I'm outnumbered across the board. And so, yeah, so the only woman and the only woman of color. And so there's Jessica and I have a big job. Jessica Pare and I think that it's a little apropos at the moment. It's sort of life imitating art because I'm trying to navigate this. I mean, our show is called SEAL Team. There's no female SEALs. And women technically could become SEALs, but no woman to date has gotten through the physical testing. And our show is trying to be as authentic as possible, so we don't portray female SEALs. But women are integral to that production, the way that things get done, so much. So trying to navigate and portray someone that is invaluable and respected is really, I think, an important challenge right now. Because I think that people are feeling the ceiling in some way, and they're attempting to break through it. But I sort of love the challenge when I get these scripts of saying, like, here's the parameters of here's my range of motion within this script, and how can I make it undoubtedly that this ship would sink without me. And that's fun for me. And I do think that it also gives me lots of times I think you get a script and you put your feet up, you say, well, this is it. But it's really provided me an opportunity to have an active relationship with my producers and my writers. Because when those scripts come, I am policing them in a way where, like, something simple, like I'll get a script and one of my lines would be something like, hey, the guys really think of me like as a sister, And that would seem like that's a fine line, except for I stop and I say, wait a minute. I'm my own person. Why am I speaking for the guys? Why don't I say, I think of the guys like a brother? Why don't I speak from my perspective? Why am I putting myself in their shoes? Like, we've got enough testosterone. We're going to go around here. So, like, the tiny little things, tiny little things to sort of police the script in a way where I'm just saying, like, am I doing all of my sisters proud? Am I putting with forward motion a narrative for women that I can be proud of? And it's in the details, but I like the challenge of it. Do you find that with your character, as well, that you like? I mean, I know that you're a businesswoman and it's fun there, but you guys are still outnumbered. I mean,
oh yeah, lots of men. No, but there are. I guess there are. It is diverse. And it's so funny. I've been so fortunate to work on shows where it is a diverse cast, and the writing room is diverse. And so I think there's like 7. What's in my cue cards? How many? There's 9 of 14 writers in Superior Donuts that are diverse or female.
That's good.
I would like maybe a female of color to maybe also join that writer's room if it gets picked up, you guys. Because I do feel like I would like that I'd like to see how a woman of color would write me. Because I feel like she's obviously been in my shoes, like really in my shoes. And I think that's important to have, if you're going to have a diverse room, really look at your cast and say, well, we definitely need someone who's walked in her shoes before. And what I do appreciate about the show is that I have been able to go to the writers or their producers and say, hey, I don't think Sophia would say this, or Franco's mansplaining, and I don't want him to mansplain this because I have my own opinion, and it was right the first time, and it's not going to be any more right the second time. A man says it, and they're so good about listening to me and saying, "Okay, yeah, we get that," and so is he. So I'm very lucky in that way. But I think I'd love to explore more women of color writing for me.
Yeah,
nice.
I think Lori was saying that she's had to great bosses that she worked with that, it's not about hating on men. It's about having men that are women willing to hear and respect female voices that we talked about last week as well. And I felt the same way. I feel so lucky that although I am wildly outnumbered at my show, I don't feel any fear about going and knocking on doors with any given script. And I have to say the times that I have pulled up my bootstraps and said, like, hey, you're making a mistake here. I need to be in this episode more. Why are you forgetting the women? Why are you forgetting the black women? What am I saying? What does this mean? I've experienced change immediately. Immediately. I mean, I've been with them when they walk down to the writer's room and they're like, oh, yeah, they're going to do this. And so for as many times as I've walked into rooms and said, we need to make changes, I've felt heard. And I've just as many times written follow-up emails to say thank you. I feel seen. I feel valued. I feel appreciated. And more often I feel heard and experienced immediate reaction. And for that, I'm so grateful because I know so many people on other shows where that's not the case.
Right.
Yeah.
And you should, just trying it and seeing and sort of creating that relationship where you can listen. Sometimes we are living in a time where, forever has been. This is the way things have been, right? And so now we're seeing a shift where women are speaking up and saying and not afraid of their bosses or whoever is perceived at a higher level. So we just have to continue reminding folks that, like, hey, I'm here, and believe me, the show will be better if you're kind of taking all of these things into account. Or maybe you're maybe not better, but yes, better. But you're going to help other people feel seen. Yeah. And it starts with me feeling seen if I'm portraying this character.
I would want to speak on that a little bit just because I think that thinking forward about like the next generation of women coming, I'm really hoping that this isn't a fleeting moment. And, we were asked a question earlier in an interview about what we would like to see happen or what advice we would give to the next generation. And I'm curious as to see what you feel, but I'm really hoping that we can continue to link arms with each other and bring each other up. I'm hoping that this isn't just like a moment in time where the pendulum swung and then it swings back the other way and we go on automatic pilot. Because I think that if we make a habit of sticking with your buddy, like on the field trip of Hollywood, stay with your buddy and link arms with your like girl gang, like don't lose them, then we'll really have a new normal. And we won't revert back to old automatic pilot, really bad habits. We'll look out for each other. And these words like woman power and girl gang, they won't be buzzwords and just hashtags. They'll be a truth.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.